I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new rant, and this rant is going to be for what is literally the second entry of a iconic horror series, and this shouldn't have to be for the first sequel of a horror series. Whenever a horror series happens, a rant should not be right away for the first sequel of it. But sometimes that does happen, and it always happens with, and definitely it applies to this. It's going to be for 2003's Final Destination 2, which is directed by David R. Ellis. Yeah, that explains a lot. The same guy directed the fourth one. Yeah, that's comforting to know. The fourth entry, the one that also sucks ass. It's worse than this, though. But, anyway, what is the plot of Final Destination 2? Well, this time around, Final Destination 1 was about a plane crash. This one is about a highway accident. While heading onto a highway, Kimberly Corman has a vision of a huge car accident, and the traffic gets brought to a halt. Kimberly is horrified when the accident actually happens. Then Kimberly links the occurrence with a similar event that occurred a year ago. The same date that she had her premonition, the Flight Warren 80 disaster. And she speaks with the last survivor left, Clear Rivers, because Devin Sawyer got killed by a fucking brick. It revealed in a newspaper. Kimberly discovers that Death's power has been disturbed, so everyone who was originally supposed to die is going to be killed in freak accidents. So Kimberly and the survivors have to work with Clear to try and stop Death from repeating its process. Yeah, and even Clear doesn't make it. So that's my reaction. Apparently this one, Final Destination 2, is considered the fan favorite of the series, but I'm one of the few that's honestly always hated this movie. Because it starts off a problem I have with this franchise in general. Not really applying for this one, but the problem it has some of the later films have, they try to be cartoony with the deaths. That's the thing with the sequels. The sequels get a little cartoony with their kill scenes. Like, there's some unrealistic scenarios that, or some just happen because the characters are fucking stupid to use their common sense. And this is the first time that, and this is pretty much the one where, and pretty much any of the ones David R. Ellis does, or did, because he had passed away in 2011. May he rest in peace also, but the Final Destination movies he directed all sucked. Because he literally had his characters be morons and get themselves killed by their own stupidity. So how was this made? Well, after the financial success of Final Destination, actually, you know what? I'll mention this. One other problem it has, beginning with this film. After it reveals what happened to Devin Sawyer, it kicks off the fact that these movies don't let at least one fucking lead live. Not one of them. Every time the movies end, they always die at the end, so their attempts to avoid death all end up being completely nothing. But how this got made was, after Final Destination was a financial success, New Line Cinema contacted Reddick regarding plans for a sequel. the original film's crew is not available, so New Line replaced most of the production team. Filming once again took place in Vancouver and Okanagan Lake. Then, after the movie was shot and advertised, Final Destination 2 would be released on January 31st, 2003, and on DVD on July 22nd, 2003. And of course, this film got mixed reviews from critics like the last one, earned $46 million domestically, $43 million overseas, earned $90 million worldwide, and got nominated for 4 awards like the Saturn Award for Best Horror Film, and a third film released 3 years after this on February 2006, which thankfully was better than this film. Now, the first Final Destination, like, where do we go from here? This first movie right here, this was something interesting and clever. It felt like an X-Files episode, because it was from the writers of the X-Files. This one, we jumped to embarrassingly incompetent writing, barely as much tension as like maybe a trip to go get mail. The director did David R. Ellis blow like 8% of his budget on like the highway crash or most of the death scenes to be all cartoonish and over the top. Yeah, clearly. Clearly that's where most of the budget went. Now, because this is the thing with most sequels. Either producer runs out of ideas, so rather than try to get imaginative people to bring good ideas to the studio, let's rehash something that had success in the past, find one of the stars from the first one right there, and say the other one died a shitty death. The one who was the lead of the first film died from a brick hitting his face off screen, as it reveals in a newspaper. Have one last survivor clear left. It ruined her damn life. So she got institutionalized. Then a survivor comes back. You gotta come help us subvert these. No, I don't want to go. You need to come help us. So these new leads lead her off. She agrees to help them. And then she dies in a hospital at the very fucking end. So these people get her killed. And they weren't even that great leads in the first place. They weren't even that interesting. No, they weren't assholes, but they were just, but the cop and, no, not the cop is kind of cool. But Kimberly was just a boring lead compared to Devon Soya. I didn't give much damn about her because there wasn't much interesting about her. You didn't know much about her. You didn't know much about anybody else. And most of the people, they only died because they were stupid. Like, literally. And I'll list the deaths later. And get a hack writer to throw a screenplay that's contrived from the first one, film it in the fastest time possible, and then supersize it with a bunch of rap pop songs, and send it out. That's what you get with Final Destination 2 here. Right there. And the director of the sequel, David R. Ellis, understands this well, because to be fair, James Wone did not come back for this, so David R. Ellis was the new director. I guess if you're into over-the-top death scenes that shock you, these would shock those kind of viewers and leave them guessing like who's gonna die next and how. But me personally, I already knew that. I could already tell who was gonna be the first to die when they were building up their deaths. Like, what's disappointing and tragic about the sequel? It doesn't really deliver in its conclusion. Like, the first ended with the same suspense that drove the entire film. It's like as if the writers now this time threw together this cheap new twist, and the director give this hack of an ending with some cheesiness as well, and ending it with a bloody explosion as well, because it actually ends with a barbecue explosion. Like, Final Destination 2 is definitely just a bad horror sequel, and it doesn't really try to hide it. Like, it's all bad in the words of, like, acting, directing, the script. Like, it's all bad. Right here. Now, it really just this honestly feels like a pointless sequel. Because, like, here's the thing. Devon Soya averted Clear's death. And then they finally went to Paris in the end. The death didn't go for Alex, but instead it went for the asshole named Carter instead at the very end of the movie. So, I guess maybe they somewhat lived? Cut this sequel. Newspaper. Alex Browning, a brick hit him in the face. And he died. Off screen. We never see it. We don't ever see it. Clear Rivers got framed for it all. Everyone blamed her for it. Her life was fucked. She was so she had to go to an institution to stay away from getting killed. And then 2 people come get her out of the mental hospital, so she dies. Yeah. They may still connect to the first one slightly, but that's other than those, that's about it for your connections. So there's times when it feels like you're just watching the first one again, except with just more cartoony over-the-top death scenes because the characters don't have a brain, or have a brain IQ of 0. Like, the film doesn't even feel dark or scary like the first one did. It's just boringly bright, and that literally drags the movie down. And now, how do we start off? So, it's been a year since Flight 180, and our new protagonist, Kimberly Corman, who is barely interesting as a character at all, is going to Daytona Beach to party on spring break. Isn't that a great concept? Because this is a teen horror film, remember. They're going to go to a beach and they're going to go party because it's spring break. That was a thing to teen horror films from the 2000s. A gang of teens go to party and they all die one by one. She's going there with her friends. While she's waiting on the entrance ramp to US route, then she has a premonition of a deadly pilot that caused by literally a logging truck. So she stalls her car in the entrance, prevents several people from entering the highway, causing a fucking traffic jam. Such as including, because these are going to be our victims. A lottery winner, some mother and her 15-year-old son, whose son's trying to go to a dentist appointment, a businesswoman, a stoner, a pregnant lady, a high school teacher, and of course our other lead character, a cop, Thomas Burke. Who, you know what? Maybe if this movie was about him, then you would have had a slightly more interesting sequel. You know, have this be set from a cop's perspective. Maybe a Final Destination movie should be set from a police officer's perspective, you know? See how a police officer would react to a premonition like this. Then I would have liked that, you know? I would have liked that instead. So while Burke is questioning Kimberly and about to write up a ticket for stalling a bunch of traffic for no reason, the pileup occurs randomly, out of just random convenience, and all her friends are killed. And Burke saves Kimberly at the last second, so all her friends are dead. Yep, just magically happens at the second, because remember, it's Final Destination. Right there, and somehow. So, now, are the death scenes still well made in this movie? Yeah. Some of them are still well made, but the movie has little else to offer. All you get are a bunch of adequate performances, like, the heroine is just bland. Most of the victims are bland. Right there. Clear is just there to be there, just to say this is a sequel. And she doesn't really get much else to do, except be with the gang. The plot is non-existent, and the film is tedious because there's no deaths. We got, like, deaths design and a list of deaths, but that's all you remember from the first one. And yeah, Tony Todd makes a cameo again, but once again, it's only just one scene. He was the most interesting part of the first one, and he's back for this one, but only for one scene yet again. And this time the survivors, all of them are really strangers, so there's no bond between any of them. So you feel like nothing for any based on the outcome of another. Like, they try to fill in some love story, it doesn't work. Bringing back Clear Rivers honestly was not even a good idea either. It's too simple for people to understand what would be going on. It'll speed up the terrible idea for cheating death in this one. Right there, and the big twist you have. The twist you have is anticlimactic because this was out a few years after The Sixth Sense was so successful. So horror studios were clearly now just wanting to do twist endings at this rate. There were some that worked, and there were some like this that did not. And some of the death scenes don't even make sense. Like, here's the thing. The lottery guy. How the fuck does this guy, when he's disposing of old spaghetti noodles, yeah, throw them out the fucking window. And I'll just reuse the pan, the probably clearly burnt pan again for new food. And not wash it. Gross. Yeah, there's leftover open box of Chinese food in the fridge. I'll microwave that. Gross. In a dirty ass microwave. This guy's a lottery winner and he lives in a dirty ass apartment. And apparently, like, you find out this guy only won like $250,000. In today's world, that wouldn't be shit. That's not even $250,000 lottery winning is not even shit. That's not even that great to rave. I don't think that'd be that great to have people voicemailing you, wanting to hang out with you. Really? Or be all over the news about. I really don't think that'd be the case, but he microwaves the open box of Chinese food from his fridge in there. And of course, he uses oil for his pan. Then, of course, his microwave starts to malfunction, and his ring goes into the sink. Yeah, right to the garburator, he literally puts his hand in there instead of finding a tool to get it out. You know, how about find a spoon or something, or just turn off your stove, get like a screwdriver, unscrew the sink thing, and to get it out, or something like that. Yeah, if a ring falls in garburator, you need to get it out because you need that garburator for food and stuff or to drain your sink. But so you do kind of need that garburator, so you do kind of need to get the ring out. But instead of use like a spoon or something, a scoop or spoon or something to get it out, he uses his fucking hand, and his hand gets fucking stuck, and his house catches on fire. He gets his hand out. He doesn't die from the garburator. He gets his hand out of the sink. And he tries to escape, but guess what? Somehow the doors by air close, and they lock shut by air. He gets out through one window, but he slips on that spaghetti he threw out and wasted, and the ladder stabs his eyeballs. Or the kid that was going to the dentist. How he dies is he goes into a construction site to scare some fucking pigeons away, and then a window that's about to be assembled there crushes him as ass to death. And yeah, like, there's a lot of things that don't add up. Like, it feels like the deaths are going backwards, and like, even though Kimberly and her friends die last in the vision, but apparently somehow her friends die first when it actually does happen. So that makes no sense either. And the idea of the first movie's characters is deaths really save these new characters from dying, and Death wants to kill them again. It basically just makes this whole invisible death force an idiot who just messes up his own plan. And it takes for granted what you see in the original. It really skips a bunch of needed explanation of death, and it just jumps right into it straight away. And if the film had the explanations, it still would have felt old and rehashed. Like, we already saw this stuff before in the first one, where the original, though, had more enduring characters. Here you have a bunch of shallow and uninteresting characters. Your only interesting character you have is Berg. But the movie doesn't want to be about him. It wants to be about Kimberly. And it wants to bring back Clear. To basically make her useless, make her feel useless, and then kill her ass off at the end. So, the survivors get questioned, and then after that, you have the death scene of Evan, the lottery winner, who wins a lousy $250,000 that in today's world would literally not mean shit. And lottery money, and really not that big of a deal if you win the lottery. Lottery money doesn't even fucking last. So it should not be all over the news if someone wins like $250,000. Right there, because he pretty much gets his ass killed because he's a fucking idiot. So yeah, first victim was a moron. They're all morons, but this guy's one of the biggest of all of them. So Kimberly is somehow aware of Death's presence, and so she goes to visit Clear Rivers. because she's the last survivor because Devon Soya apparently died such a shitty death off screen. Kimberly tells Claire that Evan was the first of the highway survivors to die. Unlike in her premonition, Claire deduces that the survivors are just dying in reverse order. So, the 15-year-old kid is our next one to die. He has to go get a cavity filled at a dentist. And then after that, he doesn't die at the dentist. Instead, he dies because his stupid ass goes and scares pigeons, and a window pane crushes him. So then Claire introduces Kimberly and Burke to William Bloodworth. Tony Todd's cameo. Back for only one scene. Again! Instead of actually giving him more of a role, we give him one scene again. He tells them that only new life can defeat death. And believing the birth of Isabel's baby could disrupt Death's plan, Burke sends fellow Marshal Steve Adams to take her into custody, aka, yeah, pretty much Isabel is the pregnant woman, so Burke can gather other survivors in his apartments. Nora, who is pretty much the mother of the Tim kid that got killed by the window, he tries to leave, and a chain of accidents in an elevator from some creepy stunt guy leads to her decapitation when her head becomes trapped in an elevator. So then, Eugene is traumatized by this and attempts suicide with Burke's gun, but it keeps misfiring. And Claire then comes to the conclusion, because it's not Eugene's turn to die. So, a large build-up is kind of ensuing right there, where the movie convinces an audience that a character is going to die in all sorts of horrible ways, but then an anticlimactic drop occurs, and the audience, so it can make the audience go, whatever, but then, boom, they're dead. The character gets killed in the most unexpected way. So, that is the power of the film. But, yes, maybe that, but other than that, you don't get much good acting. You get an unsurprisingly not great script. And of course, and the core of the film, the characters are really just sketched with no depth. And the storyline is old. It's just really rather old fare. Of course, it's a silly, maybe if they were, maybe they were trying to be more self-aware and maybe be a little more silly with this, but the silliness here was not funny. The silliness here was just really frustrating and kind of annoying. And of course, now y'all remember, Final Destination, it's a slasher movie, but it's not a typical Freddy, Michael, or Jason kind of film. And of course, the killer is actually an invisible force Death. And it's pretty much the only slasher series without an actual killer. Death is a visible force itself that stalks the protagonist instead. And interesting too is the way that the movie turns everyday objects and occurrences into lethal weapons in rather original ways as well. But some of the death scenes were very originally creative and well done in the first film. Right here, you had some realistic scenarios. The bathroom death was a realistic scenario. The knives death was a realistic scenario. The train death was a pretty realistic scenario, I'll give it that. Yeah, it kind of falls apart in the final act of the film, but that movie had some realistic scenarios on how anybody could die. The highway chase, that could happen in real life. The whole Evan death scene in the house and apartment, that could be avoided if you actually had a brain. The window death, that could easily be avoided if the kid was actually smart not to run to a fucking construction site. Alright, what else can I think of? The elevator death. Yeah, that could be fucking avoided if the props guy wasn't a fucking weird idiot who sniffs the mom's hair or has his claw prop hands sticking out of his bin that he's carrying him down. Or what else can I think of? Who else dies around here? Oh, there's the stoner guy. His death could be avoided if he gets out of the way of the fucking wires that go thrown everywhere. Oh, and one character's death is where her legs are trapped. She's trapped in a car because her legs are pinned down. And Fargo's trying to get her out. Just try to go calm. Don't worry, I'll go quiet mode. Uses a buzzsaw that's fucking loud and causes an airbag to just magically, boom, kill her ass. Half of these could be avoided. And don't get me started on that line that leads up to Tim's death. He's going to be attacked by pigeons. So, what line is this? Ugh. So, The survivors get into an SUV to track down Isabella because she's gone to labor in a jail cell, and so a police officer has to rush her to the hospital. And then the survivors realize that their survival in the pulp is because of previous accidents they avoided thanks to the Flight 108 accident, which inverted the sequence of their intended deaths. Then the SUV suffers a blowout and have to swerve into a stack of pipes in a farm and penetrate the car. No one is killed from this yet, but Eugene is injured and Kat is left pinned to her seat. Rescue workers arrive to assist the farm owners, the Gibbons family, in rescuing the others while Eugene goes to the hospital. But Kat's rescuer accidentally activates her airbag because even he's too much of a fucking idiot to be a fireman. So, like, literally, you saw it the wrong fucking way. Wow. Yeah, I'll do quiet mode on this. This buzzsaw sounds like it's loud as fuck. That does not sound like quiet mode. And you saw it right near the engine. The engine. How about saw it through the door? No. How the fuck are you a rescue person? So yeah, her cigarette falls to a gasoline leak, and that dismembers the drugs guy. So, Kimberly, Creer, and Burke are the only three left. So they rush to a hospital after Kimberly has a vision of a doctor who she believes is going to euthanize Isabella. However, that plan ends up being pointless because Isabella and her baby all end up safe. And Kimberly realizes her vision that Isabella was never going to die in the pileup. And so, an explosion from an oxygen leak in Eugene's ward kills both Eugene and kills Clear. That's why I say they just axe Clear off at the end and why these leads basically lead Clear to her death. If maybe she says she doesn't want to be a part of it, how about don't get her involved? So she's fucking dead. Thanks for making the first film fucking pointless. Thanks for axing off Alex. Thank you by having a brick in his face. Thank you for having Clear die in explosion. Fucking hat fell off, damn it. Alright. So yeah. So now it's both only Kimberly and Burke left. So Kimberly realizes that the vision for the hospital is hers. And she finds out from an article of Survivor creating new life to defeat death, so to ensure Burke doesn't die next, she drives to a lake to drown herself. But Burke saves her and she's revived by the doctor that they saw in their vision. And then she wakes up. We cheated death. I don't give a shit about your guys' chemistry. You guys weren't even interested. This Kimberly character wasn't that interesting. Maybe if Burke was the only one who survived and Kimberly died, I'd like that better. Because I thought Burke was much more interesting than Kimberly. But we need to be about this Kimberly character we don't almost know jack shit about. And this film basically now just feels like it's trying to parody itself. And the first film was rather serious, but they try to add in humor here, like they do for a lot of horror sequels. There's humor and dialogue that doesn't even belong in certain scenes, and it ruins the suspense of the film. And a number of scenes just felt comical. Like, the first victim dies too soon after the incident, and dies from his own stupidity, so you don't know this guy at all, so you can't really have much of a reaction to his demise. Yeah, the killings are more brutal, but these deaths just feel like these deaths only get caused because the characters don't try to actually have common sense. The first film's deaths actually are what could happen to anybody, even somebody with common sense. That's why the death scenes in the first film worked. Here, these could all be avoided. Right there, but they don't want it, but the movie doesn't want the characters to do that. Like, FD1 had very imaginative death traps, and that can always be constructed as freak accidents. Like, FD2 stretches credibility. Like, one guy gets his hand caught in a stop garbage disposal. His apartment burns down, like seriously, because he's trying to get a ring that he can't just use a spoon to get out of? Or just, turn off the stove first, and then maybe try to use that to get it out? Or barbed wire that can somehow tear through flesh? There's no driver in this movie here of using brakes, because apparently nobody uses their damn brakes. Yeah, and breaking rules, like, what is with this cop's gun that can apparently evade physics because it's apparently not Def's design plan? I don't know, man. But so anyway, we just got on with the finale where Kimberly and Burke are now having a picnic with the Gibbons and Kimberly's father. And the Gibbons explain that their son got nearly hit by the news van the day of the farm accident, but Rory saved him. Then Kimberly Burke realized, wait, this means Def's going after him. Brian then, boom, is killed by an explosion. And his mom's, and his arm falls in front of her. And then it ends with a heavy metal song playing in the background. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Even though we just saw some random guy blow up. And we're having to play some epic heavy metal music in the credits. Despite the fact that it's convenience not over. But apparently the movie is over there. That's how FD2 ends. Sure, maybe it doesn't have the same ending as the others for the actual lead characters this time, but if this is a follow-up to an enjoyable X-Files style horror film, then this just did not work out. Now, would I have any good qualities with the film? Yes, I would. The reason why I would watch this over the fourth one is because the death scenes in the car highway vision were all great. And when it comes to the, best death scene, the druggies death scene, despite being unrealistic, is kind of cool. I will say that. That was a pretty cool death scene, and Burke, I thought Burke was an interesting lead, and I wish the film was about him. Maybe these premonitions could happen from a cop's perspective. Instead of this character named Kimberly that wasn't really interesting to begin with. Other than those, Final Destination 2 is a terrible second entry in a horror series. Yeah. One of the few second entries of a horror series that actually sucked. So in the end, I would definitely avoid Final Destination 2 if you like the first one, because this movie is basically an over-the-top cartoon version of the first one that axes off the last few characters of the first in idiotic ways. Anyways, that's it for my rant on Final Destination 2. And for anyone going to rank Final Destination 2, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you like Final Destination 1 and want to see what would be next, well, all you're just going to get is an over-the-top cartoon-like story here, with nothing hilarious and axing off good characters of the first, so don't watch it except for the highway crash maybe. And if we're going to rank Final Destination 2, I'm going to give Final Destination 2 a 4 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. Well, now that's the first 2 out of the way. Now we're 3 more Final Destinations to go. And that's going to be our next... the next watch is going to be for the one I love. This is the one I like. Yeah. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.